Welcome to Chronic Curiosity. Hope you enjoy. Remember to click and like and share and tell your grandma and whatever. Thank you for joining. This episode is a continuation of last week's episode, number 15. So if you haven't listened to that one, stop it right now. Listen to 15 so you can get it all in context. And here we go. It's ridiculous. Heresy, I say. I don't even know if that's the right word. It just sounded good. I don't know. I gotta pee. Tony's peed like 5 times so far.
I don't know what to tell you, bro.
you guys
I got BPH, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Do you want me to keep it rolling, or?
We can. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a question just for Tony.
Ooh,
Yeah. So I think you're real good about asking guests deep-ish questions.
Oh, you can far away to deep-ish questions here at me?
So
Sure.
In the Man-Check episode, you quoted that Naval had quoted Confucius when he said, "We have two lives, and the second begins when we realize we only have one." You asked them if they thought
they were living there.
Yes, that they had arrived at that point. And then you also followed up with, how do they stay inspired? And Mancheck had a super great answer, and then Fred followed it up, connected it. But then it just kind of ended to Mike talking about his favorite
jiu-jitsu move.
Yeah. So, and I think that you could bring a lot to that. So you're good at asking those questions. You just don't typically give your perspective.
So what's your question?
Okay, well, first of all, since you're smart, explain to me when you hear that quote, what does that mean?
Yeah, so let me address that by, I don't know if I am smart, but I appreciate that compliment. So for me, that quote is, it's almost like everyone comes to a certain point in their life where they were a caterpillar and now they're a butterfly. Like, I know that sounds like an absolute ridiculous analogy to make, but they almost, they get their wings and they go, you know what? I'm finally alive. Like, I found something that made me feel alive. I found something meaningful in my life. I found something contributory to mankind, or I found a relationship where, we built something awesome and now we have these kids where everyone finds something, whatever it is in your life, they find something. And so that initial life that you thought that you were living, which was apparently not a life or something mundane, turns into something. And now you go, you know what? That's gone. I had this, but now I have this. And now I need to really wholeheartedly, truly live. Like, treat every second, every moment like it's finite and rock and roll. Like that, I guess that's kind of what I think that quote means there.
Oh, every man has two, or every person has two lives.
Yeah. The Confucius quote quoted by Naval.
I said he asked you and Mike Mancheck that.
I remember that
question.
He's really good at skirting the issues.
He is, but he doesn't answer.
So not skirting the issues, just sometimes I don't have time to answer those.
But then I asked him to explain that quote to me.
Yeah, we always have time.
Because I've read it multiple times and it just didn't click with me what it meant. So I asked him to explain it. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like, I would say, just from knowing you and Fred, that like you guys are living the one life now. Like, you have the two lives, you have the one. Like, you guys have been through your hardships, and all of a sudden you kind of like went, oh shit, like
this is it.
Like, we're raising Kai. Like, we wholeheartedly appreciate each other. We've been through some crazy fucking hardships, and now it doesn't mean that we're not going through hardships, but now we're a 50-50 team. Like, you appreciate the hell out of each other. Like, you're building something awesome here. Like, you guys have your individual lives and you have your together lives. You have your parent lives. You guys encourage each other. Like, you literally realize, like, my life is better because you're in it. Your life is better because he's in it. Like, now you guys are like rocking and rolling.
No, I totally agree with that. And that's like, I think everyone, this might be not harsh, but a bold statement.
Bold move, Captain.
I think everyone has to have a moment in order to live a fulfilled life, or at least seemingly. I think everyone has to have that moment where it hits them and they go, oh, this is really, I only got one.
Yeah, it's something epiphanical.
Yeah, like this is it. Like
all I can think of is Deadpool, and he's like, wait 4 or 5 moments.
but that's really what it boils like to me. It's like, oh, like this is, at least for this life, I don't know. Maybe there's, I think jury's still out on what's at. What
Yeah, I'm not willing to gamble on that though. So like once you realize it, like let's rock and roll, man.
And that's
Let's
the thing.
make
Like, why would I gamble? Like, I still have it. So even if I'm going to gamble with the life I have, I want to make as much out of it as I can.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. And we've talked about stock market and gambling, and or when Corey was on talking about how gambling to him was a fun.
Sure.
I didn't waste that. He said, I didn't waste that money.
Yeah.
Like I used it and it brought me happiness just by doing something I enjoy with it. All right. Some people might find that throwing it away, but if we're all gambling with our lives essentially, because it's the greatest gamble ever. Mm. You're either going to live, you're not going to get out. You're going to die. So
Ant, did you have something? And I don't need specifics, but I feel like since I've known you,
like an impetus, something that where I was like, oh wow, he's living that other life.
Yeah, I feel like personality wise, you've been the same all the years that we've known you. But
what you're known me for?
5 years?
Yeah, it's been
5 years probably.
Yeah,
so you were finishing up in P school, I think, because the first conversation I had, we were talking about Dr. Burke. Because you were with him as a pediatrician.
True.
So what you have done with your life has changed over the years that we've known you. But I feel like personality-wise,
pretty static across the board.
Yeah. So I guess. Well, you obviously
some slight changes.
You obviously know Ant a lot different than I do, but
less bourbon and pretzels.
Minor modifications.
I mean, it has been a while since you've
passed out in my bathtub.
Our bathtub, but that's
one time.
But that's all it takes.
I do feel bad because that's been brought up multiple times.
I love it.
Just to even it out, one time he came upstairs per your account. He never came back down, and you found him asleep in front of our fireplace.
I did, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that
happened. And I don't think he came to bed that night. So.
No, I was fucking toasty. Yeah.
You're not the only one who's done it, Tone.
I wouldn't take any offense of it. What I do is what I do. Like, that's me. What you get, what you see, what you get. As in terms of an impetus, like something, I don't know that there's not one singular event that I was like, hey, this happened. There have been several events. Like I got in trouble a little bit there. I got in trouble with the law there. I was facing some pretty serious stuff, and I was definitely bestowed some blessings upon me through an interesting series of events. And I kind of looked at that as a second chance. I'm not saying that that's the one impetus that changed me to think like, hey, I'm living my life. But that was certainly contributory. The other thing that's contributory is my grandfather. So my gramps has always poured into me. And I always kind of wanted to live up to him. And he had this awesome relationship with our family where he never wanted our family to argue. Like everyone was united. And if there were arguments, he wanted them to kind of be squashed in terms of saying like, hey, why are you upset? Why are you upset? Let's come to some sort of a resolution. And when I talk about kind of like sitting down and talking with all different people, but being able to agree to disagree, or being able to like listen and have open dialogue but still be polite, that directly comes from my grandfather. And so I think I've always just kind of wanted to live up to kind of the family that he built, the patriarchy, if you will. And then he's just like a phenomenal man. So like he's the type of individual that like when you sit down and have a conversation with him, I think he's 88 or 89 years old right now, and just still very, very like has his wits, unbelievably smart. And I'm hoping that we get him on the show here. But when you have a conversation with him,
not going to drop it ornery. Not going to.
Yeah, no, he's very ornery. He's a jokester, which is fantastic. I think anyone who lives that long has to have a fantastic sense of humor. But he doesn't try and do this. But when you walk away, he bestows you're like, I feel wiser. Like, how did that happen? And like I'm like, holy smokes! Like, my goal is to not like bestow wisdom upon people. It's not to do any of these things directly, but like it's to be the best version of me that I can be. And hopefully, like, you know, I've certainly been given like gifts and talents. And with those gifts and talents, like I feel like I need to kind of pour them back into people. And that all kind of ties into like, once I'm cognizant of the fact that like I've been given these gifts and talents, I can't waste them. I need to use them. And I'm kind of living that other life. Like I'm living the one life at this point. And so at that point, I'm going to try and like become exhaustive, if you will. Like, I'm going to stay healthy, but I'm also going to do everything I can to touch each and every person that I come into contact with. And I have my patients say this all the time. They're like, you're like one of the you're like the coolest provider we've ever met. And like, I draw myself back in because, you know, I don't want to like, you know, I don't want my head to swell or anything like that. But I'm like, listen guys, this is literally just me. But like every person I come in contact with, like I really try and look at them as just any other human being that I reflect myself out of. So like I see myself in so many human beings, whether or not humanity defines them as good or bad. Like when I deal with the inmates that I deal with, I see parts of me in the inmates. When I deal with drug addicts that I deal with, I see me in all these people. And so by kind of like taking this stance on mankind and humanity, it's enabled me to go, you know what? I feel like now I'm living my life because I'm cognizant of the fact that like I'm trying to pour back into humanity and basically like reflect on who I am in these other people, and that I could be there and they could be here. And then any like talent or gift that I've been given, don't squander it. Don't waste it. Like, you know, every second I have, let's make this a meaningful second. And you can't do that. Like you need to rest. You need to do all these other things. But like, I don't enjoy profligacy, like the wastefulness of seconds, the wastefulness of talents or anything like that. And so I try and like turn each and every one of those into something that's meaningful. And like I said, just going back to trying to be like the best version of me that I can possibly be. And so that came from my grandpa, you know, that came from second chances, that came from my parents, that came from friends. It kind of came from, you know what, just opening my eyes and opening my ears and going, here's the self-reflection. Here's where I've been. Here's where I could be, but here's where I am now. Who do I want to be? How do I want to define myself? And like, how can I touch people? How can I, and not in a Joe Biden kind of touch people way.
Oh, Jesus. Or a Trump even.
Or a Trump, that's true.
Yeah.
Just grab them by the... So, and you gotta have a hell of a good sense of humor. I will say that. I do love a good sense of humor, but honestly, like I do, I have patients say that all the time. I have people say all that. It's very weird to hear like people say, "Dude, you guys are inspiring." Like I have people that listen to the podcast and like, "You guys inspire me," and I'm like, "Oh, that's crazy." Like I don't even think of that as inspiring, but I think if you can just kind of like become the best version of you that you can find and continually go after that, and then think of mankind as like that's me right there. Like I could have that gram of heroin in my veins right now. Like I could have lost a child. I could have anything inserted. And once you can kind of put yourself in those shoes, like I guess that empathy is there, and you know, you're able to better deal with that, or you're able to just like sit there and listen and figure out like And a lot of times I'll sit there and listen because I'm a pretty good listener. It's weird. I've always been able to listen. My mom was good at that. My grandfather was good at that. And you're listening, you're helping people, but just as much as you're helping that person by listening, you're also getting something back too. So it's symbiotic in nature. So
as long as you're listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my follow-up question was going to be, how do you stay inspired? Because that was your follow-up question to them, but I feel like that just went ahead and answered it. So
yeah, I mean, obviously my grandfather inspires me, like my family inspires me. You know, when I look in the mirror and I see my deficits, that's an inspiration right there because I always want to be a better version of me. And then, you know, my patients are huge. I mean, I deal with, you know, patients that have substance abuse, and I deal with patients that, for whatever reason, they're in the jail. And so, like, talk about an amazing opportunity to try and impact people. it's huge. It's right there. Like they want something, they want to change. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not easy, but like it puts me in an easy opportunity to where if they show up, they want something, you know, they're willing, they want, you know, the Suboxone, or, you know, they want someone to listen to them and do some cognitive behavioral therapy, or just to listen in general. And so it's like, cool. Like, I'm going to be as real of a human being as I can. And, you know, the funny thing is people are like, man, you're one of us. Like they see me and, you know, I do certain things for rapport. You know, I've got a beard, I've got the long hair, whatever. And they're like, man, you Duck Dynasty, whatever. Like literally blue collar, they just look like them. And I am them, because genuinely, like I see a reflection of me into these patients. And I wholeheartedly believe that's not just bullshit when I say that. Like, I could be on the other end of it. I could be in that chair. I could, you know, have an addiction. I could be, you know, in jail for, you know, something longer, something worse, or whatever. So it's awesome to be able to kind of get those to do those things, and then, you know, small steps. And, you know, the other day I literally got to decrease someone's dosage of Suboxone, and I told him, I said, dude, I know this is like very small for you, but you don't understand how much that means to me that you were able to decrease this dose, even if it was 2 milligrams or 4 milligrams. Like, that is a huge step of you transforming your life to basically, you know, kind of come off of that. So those are the things that inspire me, and like to try and like help people become better versions of themselves, so that they can get their kids, so that they can get up and maintain a job and be the best version of themselves. Because I've, like, to some degree figured out how to try and become the best version of myself. Like, that's what inspires me. That's what motivates me. And so, you know, even like a couple months ago, like I was sick, didn't have COVID, but I was like, I just absolutely, bro, I got tested. Calm down, Fred. Felt terrible, but I was like, I got to show up. Like, I literally have to show up, because if I don't show up and people don't get these medications, like, they could relapse. They could use heroin again. And if they do, they could die. Like, they might not be there for their kids, like all these different things. Right. So, you know, it's kind of playing that out that absolutely inspires me.
Right. Well, I think it's, you hit it, is, at least for me, it's that seeing yourself in other people. And I think I kind of went backwards on that. I think we're kind of similar to the similar situation, or similar paths and viewpoints, but to me it was, I was screwing up, and I've kind of told the story before where I saw where I could be.
True.
You know, and then it was like, oh shit, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And then instead of, it wasn't like I was on a good path, you know, and I knew where I wanted to go, but I still saw where I could go. It was, for me, it was, I saw where I could go. And that's exactly where I was heading. It was like, woo, okay, let's on the brakes here and switch this up. And then through that, and just that self kind of appraisal, you know, and I couldn't ever really describe it until hearing Peterson talk about it. And one of the tunnels I went down was, you know, we talked about that too, is, you know, seeing yourself as, you know, everyone. I think it was like episode 4 or something like that, or 5. Or I think it was the Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying. I don't know. I can't remember
7.
the episode. Was that 7? Where he talked about, you know, you could be that Nazi officer, this, that, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being able to see, and the general idea of just being able to see yourself in people and seeing people in you, and being able, like, to me, that's, you know, it's, a lot of people could look at what we do now or what we say or things that we say and be like, oh, that's so arrogant, this, that, whatever. But,
True.
You know, but when you have, to me, I've seen a lot of people that I've worked with and, you know, had relationships with where, you know, I see that pieces of that older me in them. And when they say, well, no, I can't do that, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, I'm not good, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, whatever. It's like, no, you are. You got to work for it. Like, I'm not gonna say you can be awesome. True. You know, just because you're gonna have to fucking work for it. Yeah. But you can. Don't downplay yourself like that. Like, you need to be honest with yourself. And being honest with yourself is not only seeing your negative qualities, but being able to see your positive qualities as well. True. You know, it's not,
That's self-appraisal.
But being honest with your self-appraisal just isn't saying, hey, I suck in these areas.
Yeah, it's, hey, how do I...
Yeah, I'm good in these areas too. It's like, it's break it down to a, appraisal of a house.
Yep.
Well,
It needs this, but,
it needs
this is good.
You're going to need a new roof in 2 years, but you know what? The foundation's really good.
Solid.
This, that, whatever. Like, being honest with your self-appraisal is laying both of those out.
Going back to Joe, bro, his honesty. What he's saying, honesty.
Yeah, and it's just, I think that was kind of where it hit with me too. It just kind of like along the lines of what you're saying. It was like, all right, let's look at ourselves, and you can see yourself in everybody. Everyone has an opportunity to be in a good position or a bad position, theoretically.
That is pretty, like, dude, from me over here, like, because obviously, like we said, we've been friends for 5 years or whatever it is. It's actually pretty cool to hear you say that. Like, dude, not that I ever had like a beef or anything with you when you were like, I don't like people, because I actually thought it was pretty hilarious.
It didn't.
Because we got along, and I was like, he doesn't like people, but he likes me. I was like, I feel pretty good about myself. I was like, I don't think he really likes me, but we just play guitar together, whatever. No,
you were tolerable.
Yeah, tolerable. There you go. Still slightly tolerable, I guess. But no, man, just to kind of like hear you like make that, I don't even know if I want to use the word revelation, but like, introspective thinking and kind of that self-realization and kind of rediscovering yourself and redefining yourself is pretty damn cool, actually. So, and your ability to be able to go, you know what, man, I don't like people, but go, why don't I like people?
It was my fault.
And do I see like a piece of me in these people that I don't like? And if I do, well, I guess I'm going to change. And then if I change, then wow, all of a sudden, like, I guess I like these people a little bit better. It doesn't mean I love these people, but it means they might be a little more tolerable, and I see pieces of me in them. And overall, it's just kind of made me a better person. So kind of from the outside looking in as a friend, man, it's been like pretty cool to see that transformation and that revelation.
Well, I think I appreciate that, but I think I don't know. It's hard to explain. I did it for myself.
Sure.
Like, you start doing that, then you realize that like, oh, like you really realize that we're not all that different.
Yeah.
People in general, when you look at, people can have very, very big differences.
True.
Even you look at two people from opposite sides of the world. When you look at the whole picture, they have much, much more in common than they do differences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We are the two people from across the world are very, very, very similar compared to, a person and our dog. Your dog.
Depends on which person, bro.
Yeah, but
maybe not a dog, but an ape.
But even like, but you know what I mean? Like,
I'm just joking.
Yeah, but like just when you break it down that way, when you really break it down the whole picture, it kind of goes back to the whole, like we talked about the part of that revelation for me was when I realized that the universe doesn't give a shit about me.
Yeah.
It allowed me to realize, when I realized I didn't have any potential, it allowed me to realize my potential.
You have potential, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's this weird thought loop you get caught in, but really that's what it boils down to. And when you realize that, this person sitting beside me that absolutely hates me, we have a lot more in common than we really think we do.
Sure.
If we could just sit down and talk about it, and some people, and we had this conversation earlier this week, like some people think, oh, these fucking haters and, these people are this, these people are that. Well, yeah, there are people out there that are like that, but maybe they just don't like you. Maybe your personality sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe their personality sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their fault. Because there's a lot of people I hated. They didn't do anything wrong to me. I was just an asshole.
True.
But and I guarantee this, if it makes anybody feel better, I was more of an asshole to myself than I was to them. But nobody saw that, but until you have to do that inner kind of contemplation before you can, pass judgment on somebody else.
No,
rightfully.
Yeah. No, I say that to my patients all the time, man, in the addiction clinic. They're like, if they relapse or something, they're scared to come in. And then they're like, I don't understand. Like, you're not mad at me. And I'm like, why would I be mad at you? I was like, it doesn't mean that I don't care about you, but like your actions, like they don't affect me on like a, you know, at a visceral level. And I said, but you know, outside of that, it's, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to like criticize yourself worse than anyone else is. Like you're going to be harder on yourself than anyone else is. So like in moving, like my goal is to basically move forward and help you become the best version of you. And that's not chastising you. That's not bringing you down. That's going, hey, how did this happen? Why did it happen? Let's take some different actions so that it doesn't repeat itself. And let's redefine yourself and become the version of you that you want to become.
Because what good does it do you by just sitting in the wallowing in your shit?
We're just going to stay in that shit. And I'm not a fan of shit. So
Yeah, not a big wallowing.
yeah, I'm not a farmer. I don't need shit. So
Oh, I agree. It's you gotta do something.
yeah.
Get busy living or get busy dying.
bro.
Right? All goes back to that.
Do you feel like that kind of gave you an answer to your question there, Cass? Mm-hmm. You're like, longer than
finally
I
got
wanted.
No, it was just, it's
like,
nice
sweet
to
mother
just
of
have
God.
Aunt. I know that you have all these words and that you have this
got a lot of
this
words.
wisdom and this knowledge from the times that we. No, you do, and I've told you, I've texted you and said, Aunt, you have to talk more, like interrupt them. I want you. I don't want to interrupt. No, you have things to say, and I want to hear them.
Because you don't interrupt me, I'll just keep on fucking talking. And everybody would much rather hear your voice than mine.
I don't know about that.
Everybody says you just have those beautiful dulcet tones. Just
Dulcet tone. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
oh, I don't even remember. I feel like there's been so many things that we've talked about that we just kind of half answered and just moved on to something else.
I definitely think we've given, I mean, I think we've expounded on a lot of things during this podcast
Yeah.
for sure. So I think Cass is kind of keeping us,
So, somewhat.
somewhat organized, if you will.
straightforward.
Yeah. Anything else you had on your list that you were kind of working your way down on?
Well, the one thing that was first on the list was the Paul podcast. You guys started talking about addiction,
Ooh.
and you brought up that you didn't think that it should be called a disease. And I found it very interesting. That podcast literally went all over the place. So I wasn't surprised
Sure
that you
did.
didn't dive
Thanks, Rick.
super deep into this.
A
However,
little debauchery is good every now
no,
and
it's
then.
totally
It
fine.
does.
I thought that they could be a more indirect or a more direct conversation that dives deeper into it, because I could understand where you were coming from, because I used to totally think that way. And then from Ant's perspective, I could see the explanation as to why it would be a disease. And then I think after listening to the Joe podcast, where he really just boiled it down to these people are humans, it really solidified my mindset from switching from one belief to the other. So I guess I just was going to talk more into, I mean, you obviously have a great deal of direct contact
Sure.
with,
Yeah,
you know,
on a
this
daily
this
basis.
population. So what do you think about that?
So in terms of addiction being a disease versus not a disease,
Yes.
so I think I'll preface it with this is I don't know. I don't have a definitive opinion on that, because like usually I keep things pretty open just in case, you know, in medicine, obviously it's always evolving. Mm-hmm. So I have some ideas, but at the end of the day, I don't get too wrapped up in those ideas, because it doesn't change my treatment modalities. Mm-hmm. It doesn't change the way that I would treat the people. So, you know, if science came out tomorrow and said, you know what, addiction's a series of behaviors, despite the fact that it causes changes in the brain, we don't consider it a disease. It's not going to change the way I feel about the patient population or the way I treat them. So I don't get too wrapped up in that, if that makes sense. You know, I've read the studies. It does cause changes in the brain in terms of using, you know, you use heroin, you know, the receptors change. There's this neuroplasticity where the neurons are changed, and so you can't feel pleasure in the same way. So it does cause changes in the brain. That's not the definition of a disease per se. Conversely, there's a lot of theories that go, well, you know what, it's not a disease. And here's why it's not a disease is because it's a series of behaviors. Like a type 1 diabetic like yourself, you didn't ever choose to have diabetic tendencies. It just happened. It was an autoimmune disease. Like you didn't get to choose that. Whereas someone that used heroin, at some point they had to consciously make that first decision, if you will, that, hey, you know, I had knee surgery. I needed pain medication. I was prescribed Vicodin. I used Vicodin. I had to continue using it. At some point, like my brain started to change when I used the Vicodin, like, and so they didn't choose to have the injured knee, but they chose to still use the Vicodin. So it does get hazy. Like,
I was because that could now
I know,
you can theoretically call that a doctor induced disease.
Addiction.
yeah, absolutely. Which I
How
I
fucked up is that when you think about it?
I know, and I never thought about that. Like they came after the doctors for the opioid crisis and the you know, the epidemic there, and I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Like I didn't believe in that, but I've definitely seen some doctors that were like, yeah, we're just going to keep prescribing.
Well,
this stuff.
I've heard stories too where doctors have like a little drug ring going.
Yeah, pill
You know
mill,
what I mean?
pill mill, yeah.
where they, you know, they're writing off scripts.
And here's what I'll say, and this isn't throwing anyone under the bus, but man, there's this reporting system in the state of Ohio called the ORS, and anytime there's a controlled substance that's prescribed, it pops up on the ORS. So I prescribe, you know, I'm part of an addiction clinic, and so, you know, we prescribe medication that's scheduled, and you would think that if someone was going to prescribe something scheduled, they would always have their office or themselves or someone look at the ORS. They don't. Like there's literally times where I have people on Suboxone therapy and they'll have a knee surgery or a hernia surgery or something, and I'm like, someone literally gave them a script for Vicodin.
Well, even then, how long has that been around?
The ORS?
Yeah.
I don't know 100%. I think it's been around for a little while. I don't know 100%.
Yeah, but how long is a little while?
I mean, I was checking them 5 years ago at least.
So, I mean, but that's not that long ago. When you look at
No,
everything
I'm
that's
not
been
saying that it
going
wasn't
on-
out there. It just got transitioned from the MD's job to the nurses checking it. However, they completely did away with that now. Like the nurses don't even have access to it. So I
might go back to the.
can't even guarantee how the
Physicians
docs
or-
are checking it, but per protocol where I was at, we had to check it anytime anything scheduled was. We had to either email it to the provider or print it so that they could review it. And
October 2nd, 2006.
So
okay,
14
so-
years.
Well, not quite, yeah.
But still, like
Yeah,
that's
no, yeah, you're right, 14 years.
yeah, just over. So I mean, but that even then, like, how long's heroin been around for?
Long time.
A lot.
time.
I mean, yeah, I mean, what, 30, 40 years isn't that long, like we've talked about in
True.
the grand scheme of things, but
True.
40 years is a hell of a lot longer than 14. And you even mentioning that some people don't even check it.
Yeah.
So just because it's around, you know what I mean? So like that system, that's a great idea to be a safety net,
True.
right? But if it hasn't been used, like there's some.
It is used to some extent though. Like,
Well, yeah, but I'm saying as a
if someone's not using it.
if someone's not using it, then
True.
you know, there's a
Yeah. So I think for me, honestly, it just goes back to what I originally said. Like, I think it's maybe somewhere in the middle, and I don't know that semantics plays such a large role in whether it's a disease versus not a disease, because at some point you make a conscious decision. Do you have an underlying predisposition because of your genes?
right.
You do. Like, do you know that you have an underlying predisposition? You don't. Or maybe you do, and you choose to do it anyways. That's not going to affect the way that like I care for you or treat you. And so I guess I don't get too wrapped up in that. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to say I don't care, because if it changed the way that like I treated people or the way I if it changed my like prescriptive modalities
Medical
or my
treatment.
yeah, or the armamentarium that I offer patients, like
What's that word mean? I don't know. I think it's
it's kind of the modality of treatments that I have to offer. So certain medications, certain procedures, the armamentarium. So if it changed that, I would pay attention to it. But in the grand scheme of things, if it didn't really change like how I looked at people, how I treated people, I probably wouldn't put too much time into it. Like I said, I get it. It definitely changes parts of the brain. You make an initial conscious effort. You've got these genes that say, you have this underlying predisposition for becoming a drug addict. Whether you know that or not, you do it, then you become a drug addict. It changes your brain, your pleasure centers, those things. But The counter argument to that, like I said, is the fact that it's a set of behaviors and not completely an underlying disease. You didn't choose to become a type 1 diabetic. You don't choose to have cancer. And if you don't do anything about cancer, it doesn't get better. If you don't do anything about drug addiction and you stop using, theoretically it does get better. Right. If you don't have a seizure, you don't die or anything like that. So I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I try not to like put too much time into that, because in my mind, regardless of if they came out with a new definition for addiction, it wouldn't change the way that I looked at patients and treated patients.
And I think that's a really good point to make. Like, all right, these people are still people. And you can do what you can to help them. And I think, to me, it takes a completely different approach. Maybe not approach, but analysis of it. I look at it as kind of, we talked about, what dictionary are we using? Addiction and disease are not the same. You know why? I know, because they're two different fucking words. So they have two different definitions. Whether or not we subscribe to those definitions, is different. But to me, when you try to drill down a little bit, like, I think it never really struck a chord with me until it gets personal.
True. And
then you see somebody and you hear this, addiction is a disease. Well, I understand addiction. I feel like I could, we've had a discussion. I feel like I could very easily fall into that category and be on the wrong side of the addiction fence. Like, I actively, I think, throughout my life have had to battle that. Because I could see, like, I know that I have that tendency, whether that be nature or nurture. That's a whole different, topic. But to me, understanding what somebody with going by the original definition of disease or whatever is that constitutes, that is a disservice to people with a legitimate disease that they did not choose. And that's where, to me, it's like, all right, well, like, if we're gonna do this, like, all right, well, guess what? The person that has, the 7-year-old that has leukemia is not the same as a 30-year-old who can't get off of drugs. Sorry, it's not. Do I feel bad for you? To me, it depends on your conditions.
Yeah.
What was the conditions that got you there?
Sure.
Because to me, it's the backstory. But
or not even the backstory, but just that initial choice.
Right. So like it's the story. It's the story that kind of orbits.
True.
What made you a drug addict, or what made you, what got you into addiction? I want to understand that story.
Yeah.
So I can understand the addiction, because that changes what I think.
True.
Because I need to understand the story, because there's a story behind it. There's a story behind every addiction.
Yeah. Maybe you didn't choose. Like, maybe you were abused, and maybe someone, like your mom, injected you with heroin.
Absolutely.
And you didn't have a choice. Or maybe you did choose.
Yeah. So maybe you were just some rich fucking prick, and your parents gave you everything your entire life, and all you did was just party and take drugs, and now you're an addict.
True.
You know what? Your parents did you a fucking disservice. I'd be pissed at them, but I have a hard time feeling bad for you.
Yeah, because there's people who did have everything and didn't become drug addicts and actually became contributing members to society.
And there's people that had nothing and had every chance to become a drug addict.
True, and
that became huge pillars of society that did great jobs. But when it comes to that 7-year-old with leukemia,
they didn't have a choice.
You don't stand a fucking chance against that kid. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, and I say that like semi-jokingly. Like,
I know.
I can still love you. Like, and I'll like, whatever. But don't tell me that you can compare it to the 7-year-old kid with leukemia. Doesn't happen.
True.
So beyond that, all right, like, we don't categorize. To me, it's the categorization of it. And if that's what we're trying to do, is say that this person that made those choices is the same as the person that didn't make choices. Well,
so dude, let me pitch this to you then, because this has been kind of on my mind, and I don't know how you feel about it, but like, so dude, you've got a type 2 diabetic who did not want to exercise and who ate like shitty food, and they got type 2 diabetes. Or you had a patient that had lung cancer and
That smoked.
They smoked their whole
I was
life.
gonna make that same point.
So like I don't know. Like there's those things. Like it doesn't mean every person that ate shitty food or that didn't exercise ended up getting type 2 diabetes, or that every smoker got COPD or lung cancer. But I mean, there were some conscious decisions that were made. So like I said, that's where it gets a little bit hazy as to whether or not like it's a disease versus kind of a series of repetitive behaviors or just behaviors in general.
Right. And so that's goes into the complication of the definition of it. And how do we, and to me, it's that backstory and the categorization.
Sure. So basically, like you're saying, hey, if you are a type 2 diabetic that consciously, willfully chose to eat shitty food and be be lazy, like I'm gonna put you in the same realm as a drug addict.
Yes.
Or hey, you have lung cancer and you smoked your entire life and you willfully, consciously knew that cigarettes but you continue to do it. Hey, I'm going to put you in the same category as a drug addict.
Right. And in the same sense, like to me, it's not whether or not, I treat you differently. Like you said, it's, let's not, if I got liver cancer or whatever, okay, I probably shouldn't have drank so much or whatever. Like that's, I'm sure, or, maybe the drinking wasn't what caused it genetically, but I'm sure it didn't help.
Sure.
You know what I mean? If there's something that if there's a focal point that like, I made some decisions that I shouldn't have made. All right, well, you have to live with those decisions. But
it sounds like personal responsibility and accountability.
And for clarity too, there are type 2 diabetics that didn't eat themselves, didn't,
sure.
Be for their diet, get themselves there.
15%.
But so those 15%, like, all right, it's the categorization. Like, what did you do to get yourself there? Because that's that accountability. Like in your life, like you have to own up to your decisions, what you've done, and and maybe contradicting myself. It goes beyond just the definition of a word. But to me, that's what it is. Like,
what do you think, Cass? I mean, you're obviously type 1 diabetic, and going back to what we originally said, like the fact that if drug addicts or excuse me, I shouldn't, if people that have issues with addiction that are going through treatment, if they can get medication for free, like you should, and you can't, like you should be able to get, like you didn't choose that. You should be able to get medication at the same discounted rate or gratis that they do.
So my head kind of goes a little different. It used to be very angry, right? I used to be the first person to clap back about the difference between type 1 and type 2. It still irritates the fuck out of me. I remember telling my eye doctor when he asked me if I was type 1 or type 2 when I was like 18 getting my eye exam.
You're like, bro, I'm not fat and I'm 18. What do you think?
I just said I didn't have the pleasure of eating my way there. And I was pissed and he laughed about it. But I spent a lot of time feeling that way. And I used to be the same, fuck you. You chose that. That's you, but I don't think that anymore. I think that.
Can I clarify real quick the fuck you part?
Yeah, yes, you should, because we know you.
Yeah,
but
so
yes,
just for
should.
clarification, that part is if you like, to me, if just for keeping it simple, if an addict is saying, I'm just as much of a victim as the 7-year-old with leukemia,
or the 85% or type 2 diabetic says, I'm just as as this person that got this without any decisions, blah blah whatever, and I should deserve just as much as them, just because they don't have accountability or responsibility.
Right. Then that's the people I'm saying fuck you.
No, I agree.
I'm not. Yeah, because I think people with complications and addictions and everything else, they you deserve help, and like I just said, I feel like I place myself personally capable of being in that category very easily. So just to clarify.
No, you're fine. But I used to be it was very black and white. I lived black and white for a very long time. But I think just over the years that I also, people who smoke or don't watch what they eat or don't exercise, and, they don't take their blood pressure medication, or, they're type 2 and they don't take care of themselves. And to clarify, there are a lot of type 1s who are not healthy either. They are not doing what they should be doing. I know that I am very privileged in the way that my parents raised me and surrounding myself with people who support me. And I made the decision to follow a career that I did not like, but I knew would give me insurance so that I could take care of myself. I know a lot of people they don't have that. So I do recognize that I have it easier. And I used to very, very much so want to put them in a different category, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They still need treatment. If they're not willing to get the treatment, it's just, you can't change. But I need insulin just like they need the Suboxone, just like the type 2 needs their metformin, and people with the high cholesterol, they need their medicine too. And does it really fucking matter what category we get in? Does the person who's getting the free Narcan, they're not taking insulin away from me?
Yeah.
Maybe if it was, we only have these funds and it's going to Narcan and it's not going to people, getting insulin.
Taken away from you.
But that's the question,
it's
though.
not being taken away from me.
Is it not?
If I stayed up thinking about it, well, so I can't.
I'm not saying you stay thinking about it, but
you can't. And I think that, and I don't know if it's just because I know people now who are addicts who have recovered, and they still fight it every day. Oh, yeah. So to me, that sounds like a disease, just like a type 2 who now brings their A1C down to a certain level, and now you can control it with exercise and diet. It's still there, right? It's still that thing that's right here, and as soon as you stop, it'll consume you. And I don't think these people that make one wrong decision, I don't think that they should be condemned to this life of the life that an addict has, right? And you know me, I used to be very, very emotional about it, and I still am about a lot of things, but I don't think that them being in the same category as what I was dealt personally affects me. I used to think that it was a disservice, or I used to think that it just wasn't fair, but it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, well, so I guess it really boils down, for me, what I kind of clarifying those things is, I think it kind of is a disservice, but only at the point where there is a difference, and I'm not saying that one person is better or worse.
What is the difference?
That's what I'm getting to. Okay. So I'm not saying one person is better or worse, but when there is a difference in a point in time or a subject or anything, going back to the definitions, it changes the definition. That means the two things aren't the same because there is a difference in the two. And I'm more arguing on the, I can't think of the right word for it right now, but that's kind of the pinnacle of my argument. There is a difference. I'm not saying that the after effect of once that difference happens, that the two, paths aren't parallel, or even sometimes kind of mix in and are the same, because they, like you said, the type 2 still has that, even if they have it controlled, it's still, as soon as you stop, it's right there. Mm. As soon as you stop fighting, it'll get you. And I think that's a very, powerful thing for addicts and people with, cancers and diseases and, diabetes or whatever it may be. You have to continually fight day in, day out. But there's a difference. There was a point in time that differentiated those two people. So the only thing I'm saying is to say that those two people are the exact same.
Well, no two people are the exact same.
Well, in their struggle. Those two people are the same in their struggle. No.
I just...
By definition alone.
No, I understand that, but I just don't think that it fucking matters. And I say this saying that how I used to be so opposite and I used to be so angry. I don't think it matters. I feel bad that they have one decision. I can say, you know what? This was I was handed this. There is no guilt there, right? There's guilt in how I handle it now if I don't handle it the correct way.
Right.
But the guilt that these people have to have because they made one bad decision or they made a few bad decisions.
So that's what I'm saying.
That's hard
That's
for
what
me.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is, what are you doing with it now? After the decision's been made, after all of the after everything's happened, what is that person doing with it now? And what I'm saying in the worst case scenario, so you say you have path A and path B. Path A, you didn't have a choice, and then but after that choice, quote unquote, choice is made for you, you have a decision now to be positive or negative about it. All right. Well, if you're negative, you can say, fuck, man. Geez, that's loud. You can say, I didn't have a choice. And you have a little bit more leeway to be a whiny bitch about it. I didn't have a choice. Still, stop fucking whining, get up, live life. You only got one. You got to do it. But when you did have a choice originally, now, if you're going to be a whiny bitch and negative about it, no, that doesn't fly with me because you already made your choice. Now now you're given the choice of being positive. And you have the choice now. You have an additional choice now. You've already made a choice of doing this, that, whatever that got you there. Now you have a choice of getting yourself out. And if you're going to make the choice of wallowing in your own shit, that's tough for me to swallow, bro. Because you made the choice that got you there. Now you're making the choice to stay there. You see that's the only difference I say. There's the attitude that comes after. I get absolutely, people need supported and, if you want to change, that's hell yeah, absolutely. But if you are making the decision to just stay in your own shit, that's hard. It's hard for me when you made the choice to go there. You know what I'm saying? Does that make...
No, yeah, it does. And I don't think people that still think like how I used to are necessarily wrong. Right. I just think it's a lot of wasted energy and maybe a lot of wasted conversation deciding between the two, I guess.
I'm thinking
that you turned your mic off.
Yeah, I'll turn my mic off. So no, I'm thinking about what you said about, kind of being privileged. You've got the insurance, you can get the meds for type 1 diabetes. So what about the people that don't have insurance for type 1 diabetes? And I know you said it doesn't matter to you. You're like, I don't really think about that as much, but you might not think about that as much because you do have the meds for type 1 diabetes. So the people that don't have the insurance or the people that aren't as privileged, what happens when they can't get the meds? They didn't choose that disease, but the people that made the conscious effort to use the heroin can get the meds and they can get them for free. What happens then?
Well, no, so I really feel like I need to
that's
preface this with...
That's not a trick question. I'm not trying to
I completely...
Like data trap for you or anything like that.
I kind of make myself want to vomit when I think about what I want to say.
Because
I'm a lot different.
Just fucking say it.
I mean, you can get short acting and long acting insulin literally over the counter at Walmart.
Sure.
It's not fantastic, but it'll work.
Okay.
Right? So that's an option.
For just you're
It's
out of pocket
cheap.
and expensive?
It's cheap.
What price point are we talking?
Look that up.
You have the computer, bro.
Yeah, Jamie.
It
Yeah.
is.
She said, "Look that
This
up."
whole time,
Jesus.
I need to teach you how to Google stuff.
I've been
bro.
waiting for Jamie to just tell Rogan to look his own shit up.
Just tell
But
he tells
it's-
us.
I feel like Rogan pays Jamie
a
fairly
lot.
well.
Yeah, shit.
Well, my pocket is not lined yet,
Enough for
so
lots
I
of
have not
diabetic
learned how to
meds.
look. So, and also, can I just say, when I say privilege, I mean that my parents instilled in me a very good mindset that, hey, you're going to have to sacrifice joy for a career so that you can take care of yourself. So I don't want to say that they're
No. I figured privilege in the sense that like your parents had health insurance too.
yes,
So that if you needed
absolutely.
something, it was.
And then
it was
when I
provided
became
for you.
adult, it was instilled in me, hey,
Sure.
figure your shit out. Unfortunately, you don't get to go and just think of rainbows and butterflies.
True.
Go get a fucking job so you can pay for your stuff. But I will say privileged because I had parents that
No.
instilled that
Yeah,
in
but
me.
so just you're defining privilege as your parents telling you to
Go work a job.
fucking buck it up, motherfucker.
yeah. So
That's not
Well,
privilege.
I
think
thought of privilege in the terms of the fact that like she was saying that they encouraged like the encouragement of my parents was the privilege, the knowledge that my parents bestowed upon me was privilege. That's what I gleaned as a privilege.
you came from a position that,
No,
Like she
yes.
had two parents at all
that were there,
that were present.
exactly. No, so
that were
I agree.
present.
And I have a support system now that I know people do not have, and that's not me.
True.
That was not hard work that I did. That was me being very selective in who I choose to surround myself with. But anyways, Walmart insulin.
So it looks like it's about $25 a vial, but that's the thing is, how far does that vial get you?
right.
Sounds like a pack and a half of cigarettes.
Right. And it's not, people ration their insulin and that's awful. But there is an option. It falls into the same thing of when you get assistance and when you don't, and when you no longer qualify for assistance, it's because you just barely make enough and then you can't make ends meet. So it goes back to that systemic issue of, well, now I have to make less money so that I can get assistance, so that I can get the coupons,
Which is
so that I can get my
perpetuates the system.
yeah.
of
So
not
then
working and-
exactly, and so I don't even think that it goes back to this issue. I think it goes back to, or maybe it does. I don't know. But I can't say, you know what? Fuck people who have addiction. They're getting funds for medications that we should be getting. And maybe that is a fight that needs to be fought. I just don't think that's the issue
True.
with funding. I think the issue is that insulin was sold when it was created for like 10 cents. And now, even with fantastic insurance, I pay $3,000 a year for insulin and test strips.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the continuous glucose monitor I have. That's not the insulin pump. Actually, it might be the pump supplies. It's just I don't think that the war against how addicts are being treated is. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Or maybe it does. I don't know.
Corrupt governments.
Well, no, I mean, when insulin was created, it was sold for like 10 cents. And
I know.
it's,
Sounds like the EpiPen.
right.
Yeah, and now they're like, what, over $100?
Oh, it's,
Oh, I think they're way more than that.
yeah.
Forgot to pay. It used to be like, what, like 15
And a lot of
bucks?
I do prior
something.
authorizations for insurance or for EpiPens all the time at work.
Yeah.
Insurance say nope.
So I got a
It's
question,
just
man. Why is the coronavirus fucking vaccine going to be free?
Because apparently diabetes isn't a pandemic.
apparently not.
Are you sure about that?
Bro, not my words. Not my words. It's like cardiovascular disease isn't a
I
pandemic.
feel like there's probably more deaths to complications from diabetes
I would
every year
agree.
than
I would
there
agree.
are.
I would agree.
Something's fishy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You got anything else on your
Yeah,
list
we got-
over there, guys?
Are we just going to go straight debauchery on this?
I only have 2 more things, but why a podcast of all things? There are a lot of different ways that you could feed your curiosity. Why a podcast?
Because daughters can be proud of podcasts and not porn.
My job. I'd watch that porn. For sure.
I'm not even going to, we're not going to dive into that because that's probably go a lot of weird
I'll
places.
dive into that, but
I just didn't know if she was talking about just us two. Like,
how much money's on the table?
everything's for sale for the
Ooh.
right price.
Who? Check, please. No, so why a podcast?
Yeah. I don't know, Tony. It was your idea first, long before I ever picked it up and ran with it.
So I think for me, 100% a podcast because number one, I enjoy speaking to other human beings. Like I genuinely enjoy having open dialogue and conversation.
Wait, when it was your idea, was it just
It was a little more musical.
okay?
Maybe maybe we
Okay.
could break out the guitar at the end and play one little.
Yeah, no. So it was. We were kind of more in the music scene and or the creative scene, and I was like, man, we should do something that has like some music and maybe just get some different people on and like just talk and play and have some fun and drink a little bit and that kind of stuff. But yeah, just the aspect of like open dialogue and the fact that like I just going back to enjoying conversation with people, you just don't get time to have conversation with people. Like there's always a cutoff. There's always a I gotta go. You know, I got 30 minutes here, and to sit down and have like prior to 14 weeks ago, when was the last time you sat down and had a 3-hour-long conversation with any human being?
I mean, that personally sounds terrible for me. I
Are
don't share the same.
Yeah, but are you having a terrible time today?
Well, no, I like you guys.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like
To
there's-
clarify, there is still nothing wrong with not liking people. This introvert
Sure.
still very
Well,
much
no, I mean,
enjoys
some
not
peop-
having those conversations.
some people-
but we all haven't evolved.
Well, no, I mean, some people deserved to be not liked. I mean, there's people. Out
Oh
there-
no, that's true.
Yeah, there's some people that they have, because they've earned it. They have earned the right to be unliked.
No, but I know what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not something I
Not at all. But
try to do often.
And the other thing too, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I was just tired of this. This was my conversation.
Bloop.
It wasn't. Bloop. I can touch you, Fred. I can touch you, Cassie.
41% of Fred's text messages are to you.
41. That's solid. That's
I
solid.
have
That's what you
48
said.
of them. Are
It's usually
you.
about
Yeah. He's like, 48 of my texts are to you. And I said, how many are to Aunt? 41.
podcast, Bitcoin,
yeah,
stock market,
yeah, and the occasional alien monolith.
occasional alien. No, so it was honestly, I was just tired of the freaking communication through the phone or the communication through something that wasn't just face to face. And so I was like, let's do this. And I know so I knew Fred was evolving and I was
Every day.
every day
Cellularly.
evolving. And then just like, I'm a friendly human being that happens to know a shit ton of other human beings.
You know a lot of people.
I do know a few people. So I was like, this would be pretty cool. And then I kind of watched some other podcasts and I was like, I don't know that I could ever be that good, but I don't think I'd be bad. And I don't think Fred would be bad. Like, you know, we dabbled in music and we would always kind of like downplay our abilities in music until someone heard it and they're like, backhanded compliment. They're like, God, you guys are actually good. And I'm like, cool, we'll take that. Or like,
Imagine if we actually tried
yeah,
occasionally.
they'll like hear a song and they'll get some goosebumps or they'll be like, oh my God, that's so relatable. And I was like, okay, cool. If we can do that, like where there's the opportunity to make mistakes because you have this 3 or 4 minute period of time, like this gets edited. We still make mistakes, but like this is considerably easier than playing live or, you know, doing some of those things. And, but I think we get,
even then though, this doesn't really get edited.
No, I know it doesn't get edited.
We might cut out a bathroom break.
Sure.
You know, but even then,
but no,
it's a lot different than a 3-minute song.
It is, because you can expound upon your ideas and just the opportunity to be able to kind of like influence people, get to know people, listen to people. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Maybe we should do this.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's been I feel like you started telling me that speaking the podcast thing for, let's probably be earlier this year or last year even.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, we should do a podcast. I'm like, and I didn't listen to a whole lot of podcasts or anything. And then I don't remember the first kind of podcast. I don't think I really listened to a whole lot of podcasts, but I started listening to different things and YouTube stuff and learn about stuff. And then we had kind of talked about it. I think the podcast seed that Tony planted in my brain, and we kind of talked through our many discussions, just for the relationship things and whatnot. And then I kind of said, hey, you know, we could probably do something like that. And then, you know, I kind of, the more and more I thought about podcasts and, you know, to me, every podcast I heard up until that point, you know, mid this year was so structured. It was just so this is what it is. This is what they do. And I listened to I listened to one that I actually liked. It was, what was it? I'm trying to remember the guy's name now. It's kind of cool. He talks about a bunch of different like historical, I don't even know where to find it now. Like Bigfoot type stuff, like historical legends and mythology and like ghosts and like, but he kind of tied everything into, you know, the history behind it and the Salem witch trials.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Thanks, Nance.
Oh, they always get ruined. Those names always get ruined. I don't even know where I can't find it now. But that was the only one I listened to, but it was very structured.
Sure.
And it had to be you that kept telling me to listen to Joe Rogan.
God, that sounds like a resounding trend of everything I've done in our friendship.
Yeah, play your guitar.
Bug the fuck out of you until you get so annoyed you actually do it.
And then when I realized, like, because I was never a huge fan of Joe Rogan, and he's all right. He's still like I appreciate him more than I ever have.
Yeah.
But I don't listen to Joe Rogan's podcast for Joe Rogan.
Sure.
I listen to his podcast now because all of the people that he talks to.
Which I think is kind of what a good podcast probably does.
Right. And so like, well, the thing was like when we started thinking about this, it was always, you know, and we've had the discussion too, Cass, that, you know, people say like when you do something online, you have to find your category, you have to stick with it. You got to boom. This is what you do. This is what you stick to. You have to have your niche. And that's what you got to stick with. And that sounded fucking terrible.
How do you know that not having a niche is your niche?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I started listening to Rogan and I was like, well,
this dude's all over the fucking place.
He just does whatever the fuck he wants to. And then my life since I've kind of done the 180 and kind of tried to go down, like I've tried to, my entire life. In a sense, I've always tried to play by the rules and do things for certain reasons, this, that, whatever.
The fuck?
No, that's a whole different topic. We can go there someday, maybe. But when I was the most miserable I had ever been was when I was living my life to try to please everybody else. And I failed miserably. But I didn't think that at the time. But that's what I was trying to do. Essentially, I was trying to live my life to please everybody. And I did a terrible job at it because I was miserable. But back to the podcast. When I realized, like, fuck that. I want to do whatever the fuck I want to do. And then when we started talking about like bringing guests on, and obviously, like you said, basically 70% of the people that live within a 30-mile radius of here, and some that aren't, it was like, no, like this is the first thing, I'm speaking generally here, in my life that I can just go, you know what, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I'm going to talk about whatever the fuck I want to, except aliens. Except aliens, because they won't let me talk about aliens.
Aliens are on the board.
No.
You just got to dedicate a whole podcast.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I can't wait.
Area 51, here we come, Roswell, full throttle.
Yeah, not even that. Whatever. But so to me, it was this when we started it and realized that like we can do whatever the hell we want to, and because I've done that introspective work, I feel like I can properly defend, I guess, some of the things. In this day and age, you have to be kind of concerned about putting your thoughts and ideas and voice out there, because it's always out there. But I feel like if someone really disagreed or was, offended by something that I've said, I think at this point I could sit down with them and talk to them and say, hey, like, this is, and kind
if they let you.
If they let me. You know what I mean? But if they don't let me, then it doesn't fucking matter. They can be offended that I don't know, I have gray eyes, whatever.
Then the offense isn't on you? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Now, I remember what was this saying I heard when I was young? If you have a problem with me, unicorn
There's
farts.
a little unicorn on there.
Unicorn farts.
Oh, I can't see
Yeah.
that. I can just see
Yeah. If you have a problem with me and I don't have a problem with you, you're the one with the fucking problem. I mean, now that's not including the fact that maybe I'm just a fucking dickhead.
Sure.
Which I might be. But if I am, please let me know, and I will try to do my best to hear you, and we'll talk it out.
Sure.
But to me, it was just getting to this point where we could just have those conversations that, yeah, you got the unicorn farts picture. Oh, yes. But yeah, I mean, going back to what Tony said, it's to be able to sit down. It's not this 30-second bloop, bloop, Facebook, whatever, all those things. And to be able to just sit down and have honest communication with somebody. Because to me, it was something that I used to, maybe I'm making up for lost time. Maybe that's what it is. I spent
I like that.
well over half of my life doing everything I could to avoid being honest, to avoid talking to people, to avoid any type of interaction. And now it's like, oh, people not everyone's as bad as I thought they were. Maybe there are people out there that don't mean to intentionally fuck my life up, like I've always thought. Mm-hmm. And just giving people that opportunity. It's exciting and learning new stuff. But that was the whole thing that really set me on the path, was Tony, once again, and Rogan, having those people sit down and share ideas that were so off the wall. But once again, going back to, Weinstein's and Peterson, that they just discussed them. Mm-hmm. They didn't get upset. They're not calling each other names. And someone disagrees. They're like, no, come on, really? Is that really what, let's boil that down. Let's talk about it. Not, you're a fucking idiot, canceled. What good does that do anybody?
Well, never mind.
I don't know what that one's like. But to me, I don't know, just...
I think the other thing too, man, for the podcast is, and as we started to play more music, people got more interested in us. And we did get a little bit busy, and they got to see a snapshot of who we are. But dude, I had a ton of people, and they're like, dude, who the fuck are you, man? You do a bajillion things. Mm-hmm. Well, dude, who is this Fred character? We don't know who he is, but he shreds like a mean guitar.
No.
And he screams like a banshee, and we love it. Who the fuck is this dude? And so I was like, well, here's a cool way to kind of, let the audience or the people know kind of who we are to a greater degree.
Yeah. I think that's including people. Because if I would have had that and I don't give the credit to Joe Rogan, but that experience of somebody sitting down at a table across from somebody else, sharing ideas and discussing ideas that most people would be like, whoa, what? You know,
No.
like, but having that open communication and that dialogue and that exchange of, you know, I really like Eric Weinstein, who's,
Is he the dark curly hair?
yeah, so he's Brett's brother.
Yes.
I really like, because dude's so, he's smart beyond my comprehension.
Sure.
But he always kind of, have you ever tried this thought experiment? First I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking? But like, just being able to take a crazy idea and thinking about it and really playing it out. And, you know, and it's always been kind of like in the back of my like subconscious. Like I've always liked sci-fi shows and like movies and stuff, but not like the weird movies. Like sure, a good Tremors is okay. It's good every now and then.
Which one, bro? There's like 700
First
of
one,
them.
the first one, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like not stuff like that, but like Black Mirror.
That's some trippy shit.
Yeah,
it could actually probably happen.
Movie and there's been a couple shows that I've watched that take, you know, the ridiculous like science, like the actual science behind sci-fi, and talked about like, well, theoretically, here's a theoretical possibility. Let's think about that. You know, and being able to kind of trying to expand your own mind. And going, okay, well, right now we don't believe this to be true. We don't think, but like Interstellar, the movie with McConaughey and black holes. They talk about, you know, and scientifically, black holes are this super condensed point of gravity where not even light can escape it. Well, also when you talk about super condensed gravity, it slows time down. So at one point in the movie, like they talk about, he goes through a black hole and travels back in time because of the time, space, all that stuff. Well, like, sounds crazy, but theoretically, there's nothing to really prove it wrong. So like going down those rabbit holes of going like, all right, like, well, what if this? What if that? Like, let's actually take this ridiculous idea. If you can't prove it wrong, it doesn't mean it's right. It just means it hasn't been proven wrong yet.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I don't know, just having discussions with people and learning new things and trying to, maybe that's what it is, the adventure of being so curious. To me, myself, is I realized I was wrong at a point and I'm going down this path of adventure. So now I want to be proven wrong. And like you've made me well aware, I'm not very good at that, being proved wrong. I don't take that well. But
it doesn't happen very often, though. You're not used to it, at least when you're around me.
No, that's not entirely true. But to me, like, I want to, like, as vehemently as I will fight that off, I want it because then I'll learn something. And I want to learn from people because I've seen, you know, I've been down the path of hating everything about people in my own life. So now it's like, why not sit down with people like Joe last week? You know, this just good old hometown dad and sheriff that who cares about people, especially in this time where not everybody, but people think like, oh, he's a cop, fucking pig. I used to think that too. Fucking pigs. Mm-hmm.
Dude,
No.
how awesome was that, man, to hear like all the different facets that he considers before he makes a determination on like what he's going to do. Like, dude, when he was like, hey, they might lose their job, they might like have kids and not be able to have a place to stay if they don't make it to work on time. I was like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. This dude thinks about this. Like, dude, I thought I was like decently empathetic, and I was like, oh, I don't feel like I'm empathetic at all compared to like the stuff that he thinks about.
Yeah, and then he even mentioned, he's like, yeah, you know what, like people are going to throw eggs at my cruiser. It is what it is. Whatever.
Yeah,
understanding like where
I was
like,
going to comment on how pissed I was about that because I was like, God damn it, that's 7 grams of protein you fuckers wasted.
But yeah, I mean, people like that, and then you look at dudes like Manchak, and you know, like he just has just. I feel like Manchak and Dan are like cousins or brothers or something like that.
Can you do a virtual with Dan?
We're doing
just
it.
talked about it before.
It's almost lined up. It's almost lined up. Yeah.
So
I've never seen.
We're gonna do one with Erica when she actually moves.
I reached out to her. She said she's moving here.
Who is it?
Erica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not super close, but
Like an hour and a half away or something.
close
like that.
enough.
Yeah. She's a cool chick.
Yeah,
She's soulful.
Yeah,
she's
soulful. Yeah, that's
she's one of
kinda
those
good.
people that both of them
Yeah.
just made it so easy.
Dude, Dane,
To be around.
I've never seen you be around any human being that you were just like, who is this?
Yeah, I know this guy.
And you were like, so, and he gets that all the time, but you're immediately connected to him. And then I've never really heard you like ever kind of follow up or like talk about someone that you met and be like, I wonder how that person's doing, or like, man, that person was awesome. And I'm like, dude, that's Dan. Right
It is
there.
Dan. Yeah. We even we haven't talked about this at all. I know we've talked about this privately, and you probably know even less about it than her and I do. But the idea for a kind of a spinoff for the podcast, a little something different, and we've done one, and we talked kind of about
True.
Dan and Erica, like a story kind of session, and then getting into a discussion.
That dude is a storyteller.
Yeah.
I know he's an author, and he's actually a professor now at a college.
Is he?
He
Okay.
is.
Yeah. So, but
That's really cool.
It's definitely, Mr. Dan is you meet those people sometimes through your life that just like
Rarely.
and I've never I've heard people like, oh, there's some people you meet through your life and it's just they change you. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like whatever. But ever since those experiences, like I guess maybe it's the differentiating factor is I've met Dan once.
Yeah.
For what, 2.5 days?
True.
And then I've never seen him. I've
Yeah.
interchanged some text messages, but that was it. But I've met a lot more people since and before him that haven't nearly left a mark. And he wasn't something crazy. Like
No,
there's some
I
people
know,
that make
Yeah,
a crazy impact on your life just because they're crazy.
Well, so here's how I define Dan, man. And I've known Dan for a while. Like Dan and I have been like very best friends. And
College, right? Did you guys go to college together?
College.
Okay.
So, like,
What was the shirt? Go ahead. Well, I'll get into that with Dan. Hopefully. We'll get into that with Dan.
no,
Yeah.
so like biblically, our relationship was Jonathan and David. So Jonathan and David in the Bible, man, they were like spiritually connected, basically. And I was like, that's Dan and me right there. Like that's how we're connected. But my relationship with Dan, and not to let me think here. Was this
Tony's at a loss for words?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
So I was going to use someone else's words. I think this was a man check word, not to woo it.
Woo. I've been using that one since
I know,
man check
I know,
used that.
I
I've been
know.
using that. Yeah.
I was trying to think what he said.
I used that on the work conference call the other day.
Oh my
like half
God.
people laughed.
So not to woo it, but like this is what I've always said about Dan. And I want to live near Dan at some point. And we've talked about this. When I'm around Dan, I'm a better human being.
I can see that.
I'm as close to like the best version of me that I can be when I'm around Dan. Just because like that's how good he is in terms of just a human being, in terms of challenging, in terms of like his outlook on life and humans in general. And he's very anomalous. Yeah. And so I've always said that like the best version of me comes when I'm around Dan for like extended periods of time.
Yeah, and that's like it is. I think it is woo woo. There's something weird to it because that with Dan and Eric, there's just something. There's a vibe there.
I was just gonna say it's vibes.
I've never been a vibey person
It's
or a
energy.
woo wooey person. I've always like, oh, that's fucking bullshit. But I agree with you. Like I said, I've only met him once, but there's just something.
No, I literally remember saying that.
He has an
too.
aura. Oh yeah, before we got down, I'm like,
Yeah, you were like,
Tony.
okay. And then you came back, you were like, oh my God, dude. You're like,
you just feel like you step into like a ball of light. You're like, what is this feeling?
I
Like,
expected Erica to be a big black lady singing in the
Right.
choir, and then I see her, and I'm
Her
like,
voice
Tiny
is
white
just
chick.
incredible.
what?
Tiny white chick.
So I'm already confused,
Yeah.
even though I knew she was not black. And I just,
got
but you know, it's still in your mind, like that's what you're picturing.
With soul.
Oh,
She's got
just
soul,
so
like,
yeah.
She's got soul like no white person I've ever had.
No, she's just.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that? Can I say that? I don't know. Like,
I don't know,
Yeah.
but she was incredible. It's weird because seeing you guys do this, and then being around you, and even that weekend or that week or 4 days or however long it was, just being in the vicinity. I wasn't part of that weekend, right? I was just a tag along. But there's something about just you guys doing something that you like, even if it's something I have no interest in. Like, I can't sing, I can't, that's
Yeah.
not my thing. But you guys do, and
I feel
you
like you just quoted some Phil
loved
Collins
it.
right there. I can't dance, I can't walk. The only thing about you is the way that I walk.
Yeah, it's a good song. Phenomenal
Also, I have
song.
no idea what you're talking about. But it's just, there's something about when people are doing something that they love, or that when you're around people who make you rise up, right? Or step up, or be your best self. I mean, you said multiple times that weekend you had a breakthrough. You had never felt confident singing, and I heard you sing more those 3-4 days than I ever have. There's just something about being around people when they're doing their thing.
I think it's the people too. There's something.
Yeah, but even just being around you when you're doing this, even after those people
It's the people
leave,
going.
your energy's up here, and
Nobody knows.
and nobody knows.
Yeah.
But just through like osmosis,
Yeah.
I feel it, and I am happy for you because you're happy, or you think something's super fucking cool, or I feel your awkwardness when you're like, that got really fucking weird, and it's just super cool.
It is super cool. And I think that goes to show that this is something that I'm not even saying that I've subscribed to it yet, but I think there's more to this world and life than what we see and think and understand and know. And the reason I say that, and I know I say a lot of shit about aliens and this and that and whatever, but I always come back to, it sounds crazy, but if you were to go, what the hell are you doing, Tony?
Just looking at the spatial distribution of everything in here. I'm thinking about aliens.
Oh, well, I think to me, like, people think, oh, that's crazy. Or you can have a connection with somebody, or you feel a vibe, that you can feel the vibes coming from other people, or there's like an aura about something. Like, well, just going back to as short as the Wright brothers flying, people thought, fuck, humans can't fly. That's crazy. And you go back through time. How much do we really know about this world that we're living in? People used to think the world's flat. Now people think the world's flat again. People think that...
And those people are fucking retards.
Yeah, people think the sun evolved around the earth.
You think the world's flat?
No, I think she was offended at the R word.
Oh,
usage.
yeah, I used that in the first episode, so I figured I better bring it up again.
It's offensive to people who have that as a medical diagnosis because they are just
Born that way?
mentally slow, but you are using that word to describe someone who's just fucking stupid.
Can you say mentally slow? Yeah, but retard actually means to slow down or stop.
I am aware of that. However, you are saying somebody who has a medical diagnosis of being mentally retarded, which is a diagnosis, totally fine. But now you're
So do
using
you
that
want
word
Do you want an in-face apology or a prepackaged apology?
I want you to just call those people fucking stupid.
Noted. Sorry.
Maybe ignorant.
Apologies.
Ignorant, dumb, whatever.
ignorant's
It's
a
just
better-
it's
a more
offensive to
appropriate
people whose their minds just work slower
Cassie.
is all.
Apologies for what I said.
Thank you.
The wrong word was used. I am dumb and stupid for saying that word. If that
you.
offends you, I do apologize. I won't use that word again in your
It doesn't
context.
offend me. I just think
won't-
that it's we talked about it for like 45 minutes.
The offense could...
So maybe I
Yes.
did use that word in person because I knew how you feel about it.
I think you probably
Shame on
did.
me.
You know, I am happy that I told you to stop because I have a coworker who uses it
Sure.
all the time, and I have not.
Can I say it like they did in
Told
The
her
Hangover, or is that
to
offensive as well?
I don't recall that
Borat?
part.
Right.
Oh, I still think that
Or
Okay.
Borat. Everyone
rather
thinks Borat's
offensive.
funny. I don't think Borat's funny
Yeah.
at all.
I'll just avoid it. So genuine apologies.
I think there's something to be said there too, though. And I obviously this could offend people as well, but I think there is something to people need to stop being so goddamn offended all the time.
I feel like you better qualify that real fast or you're not going to get laid in about a week, Fred.
No, I think it's
No,
intent.
that'll totally happen.
Yeah. No, I think what we've lost is the understanding of intent by the person saying or doing something. I think that's what it boils down. Like, if
What do they say about the road to hell, bro?
yeah, I know it's paved with good intentions, but on a personal level,
I'm joking.
if somebody says something to you
Sure.
and they just like, I hear a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people, and I hear a lot of people say really shitty things.
Yeah.
But if you understand, and that goes back to the conversation of, I'm going to say something to my wife, that I wouldn't say to Tony. I'm going to say something to Tony that I wouldn't say to other friends. And I'd say something to other friends that I wouldn't say to coworkers. And I'd say something to coworkers I wouldn't say to somebody in the grocery store.
So the cool thing about the podcast is you could ask them, hey, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Are you truly trying to be offensive to people that have cognitive disabilities? Or were you just saying it because you were being dumb?
Yeah. Just being facetious about something or this, that, whatever. Like, let's go back to the intent of a person and
But if it does offend someone, like, man, I will like avoid that. I will avoid
No,
that
absolutely.
because I'm a pretty non-confrontational person around groups of human beings that like I respect.
Absolutely, and even around people I don't respect, I don't want confrontation. I think maybe bringing it full circle and maybe kind of, I don't know. We're getting there.
I just brought it up, one, because we talked about it for a very long time after you said it the first time.
Yeah.
And then...
May or may not be why I brought it up the second time.
Yeah,
And so I felt like if I was, I don't want to say passionate, but felt a certain way about something, and I don't think offended is the feeling that I have. I feel like if I don't say something, then it's kind of like those.
yeah, but that could be tricky too. Are you being influenced just that you should be offended by it, or that you should say something just because? Some things you should say. And we've talked about that too. That in conversations that people say really fucked up things. Like sometimes you'd be like, "Whoa, dude, like that's not cool." But other times it's like,
Are you talking about 50% of the conversation we have with Rick?
yeah.
Just kidding, Rick.
But I think so. What it boils down to me is, and bringing it back to something we talked about, Jordan Peterson. The reason he got famous was for his with his choice to fight some of the laws and stuff that were going into place with Canada, and how they wanted to compel him to use gender pronouns.
God, I'm not, bro, I got to interject right here. All I can think about is people being like, what'd you fight in your lifetime? I fought slavery. How about you? Pronouns.
Yeah, but that could lead to
Well, I know. I'm just
full circle into slavery again. Oh, we were not going to get on that. But I think what it boils down to is for him, like, it's his intent. He said multiple times, like, look, if he, she, they, whatever, like, if we have a congenial relationship, and is that the right word? I feel like, I don't know. That's weird. But I'll call you what you want me to call you. I don't care. But as soon as you restrict me and force me to say certain things legally, all right, whoa, there's an issue there. That I think that's where it kind of goes like, look, I didn't intend to be offensive. That wasn't my intent. That wasn't my goal. I mean, I'm sorry you were offended by that, but like, now that we have talked about that, okay, I won't use that word around you if you don't like it, but don't call from my my execution just because I said one thing and you found it.
I wasn't executing you, Aunt. I wasn't
Does he leave?
condemning you.
He's like, peace out. I'm out of here.
He'll be back. His steps on.
He'll be back. But I think to me that's an important. I don't know how to exactly phrase it, but I think that's the important piece of the puzzle that people are missing now, particularly now is.
I also believe that it can't just stop at, well, that wasn't my intent.
No, but you have to be able to back it up, and you have to be able to talk about it. And then also at the same time, you have to be willing to say like, hey, like either to me, it's either, hey, like I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you were offended by that. I can, and as long as that person that's offended by it can also give substantive reasons why it's offensive or why it's, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't say this.
Which is what I tried to do. I was not trying to.
No, absolutely. That's what I'm saying is you have to, if person A says something that person B doesn't like, person B then has to tell person A, hey, I don't really like that. This is why. And if person A can be reasonable and say, okay, I understand why you think that. I may not agree with it, but I understand why you think that. And I respect you as person B. So I'm not going to say that again around you or this, that, whatever. Then, okay, mutual agreement. Let's look at intent and not let's just burn each other at the stake as soon as we disagree.
I can see that.
That's where it goes. But you want to do a little... Why do you always shut that off?
Remember I said I'm an exceptionally imperfect human being, and that's how I relate with other human beings? There you go. Case in point.
Boom.
Proven.
But you want to do a little whiskey salvations?
We could do some whiskey salvations if you want.
You got anything else?
No.
No?
On that note, I have to go to the bathroom. Is there something? Oh, you want your guitar?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. We're at a good enough time to do this thing. You
Do the damn thing.
Turn off. It's not.
Oh.
You're fine. Tony, might you have to turn your mic down for this? Because you can't sing into it like you talk into it.
How far away do you want me to be? Like here?
Like further away, probably.
Like here?
Yeah, probably. I don't even know. This isn't set up for musical.
No, it's not set up for musical.
Wait, let me put that back to the pot.
We'll see if I can get this tuned up real quick. I think,
What are we doing? A little whiskey salvations?
yeah, why not?
Why?
It's not nearly our most flavorful one or complicated.
Depends on who you ask.
But it's-
Flavorful is a very subjective word.
Well, yeah. But it's
Yeah,
it's the easiest one that
yeah,
I know.
it's surface level lyrics is what it is.
Super surface level.
Super soft birthday parties.
Super soft bird. I don't even know what's that supposed to mean.
You will find out once we start quoting some Letterkenny. Oh. Jesus, bro. Rick will have a conniption if he sees you dripping shit on your guitar.
Fuck. I thought he was gonna have a heart attack when I drilled through it.
Yeah.
Cheating the reaper since they cut my code. I wasted more time than I could afford. I got a face that's seen a million stones. A heart forged by humanity's stone. Whiskey is my salvation. My judge be my damnation. Goes down smooth, nice and slow. My old friend helps me to let him go. Walked a mile in a dead man's shoes. Never had nothing I couldn't stand to lose. Late nights and bar fights and stories to be told. My tomb story just parole. Whiskey is my salvation. Might just be my damnation. Goes down smooth, nice and slow. My whole friend helps me let go. Sat in a pew with Jack on my breath. Seen the devil's eyes and cheated my own death. Been to a hell, not hot enough for me. Always been a wonder, but never really free. Whiskey is my salvation. Might just be my damnation. Goes down so nice and slow. My whole friend helps me let him go. My whole friend helps me let go. My whole friend helps me let go. Let it go. Oh. My whole friend helps me let it go.